I think that a lot of us, as we're getting into our either early 30s or mid 30s or even late 30s, are starting to make lifestyle choices that we didn't necessarily know about or follow when we're younger. And it's helping us improve our life in ways that we never imagined. My name is Mel. I'm a design manager for a company out of New York. I normally do videos on design and the lifestyle of a designer and anything in that field. In this video, I want to talk about a lifestyle choice that I've been working on over the past couple years. And that decision I'm referring to is that years ago, I decided I'm no longer going to eat a meat-based diet and I would be making choices to move myself towards a plant-based diet. I'm not a full vegetarian, and I'm not sure if I will ever be a full vegetarian, but I've gotten to a point where meat is a once in a while thing. Mainly out of that, there's just nothing else to eat, so I have to eat a piece of meat, but my portions of meat are very, very small. And while that decision isn't very weird for me, I've been met with like a lot of weirdness from other people when I bring that up. This was a very self-informed decision that I made. It was very internal. And it didn't come from something like I watched a video online of like how meat is processed and I felt it was very cruel. And when I think on it, there's really through my life have been four key points that really helps me formulate this decision and want to pursue this for myself. So the first thing that like led me to start formulating this decision for myself is that I just generally never enjoyed the taste of meat. I came from a household that like had a lot of meat and like starks like potatoes and rice and then very small amounts of vegetables. And early on I realized that I just did not like the taste of meat at all. And what I enjoyed about meat dishes was the seasonings they were prepared in or the sauce they were prepared in. And once I would consume that aspect and I got to the meat aspect, I just didn't enjoy what I was eating and I was more forcing myself to eat it. And with that, like I noticed I didn't enjoy like a baked piece of meat. So like I know something is like baked chicken people do and it has very little flavoring added to it and you're having just like the raw meat. I would slather that in ketchup to try to like hide the taste of the meat. I used to tell people, like, the closer that the dish got to just being a piece of meat on my plate, the more turned off to it I was. I always wanted to avoid eating red meat. I would come up with different reasons, like, I didn't like the way that it sat in my teeth, I didn't like how chewy it was, it made me tired, but I just noticed also that I was masking that I just didn't like the taste of red meat more. Chicken I can tolerate, fish I can tolerate. Shrimp, I actually really like shrimp, but I know that people don't really consider shrimp to be meat. But again, like with shrimp, what I like about shrimp is the seasoning shrimp could be like made in. Like Cajun shrimp is really good, or like if you get one of those like shrimp rings, I have to like dip it in something to be okay eating it. So again, like early on it was the taste. I couldn't stand the taste of it, and as I grew up it got worse. Another aspect that led to this decision for me to just like kind of cut meat out of my life is I noticed that when I consumed meat, my body felt very weird afterwards. I had a lot of like bloating and indigestion problems after I had meat, where now where I've reduced the amount of meat, I don't really have those. I noticed more frequent and longer sessions of those kind of problems when I consumed red meat versus where if I had like chicken or fish, wasn't really the same. Like it was there, but it didn't last as long and it wasn't as intense. To note though, I'm now allergic to fish, so I can't even eat fish if I wanted to. But when I was younger, I used to not be allergic to fish. But I'm still good on shrimp and lobster. And something to clarify, I'm not just talking about like the meat of the animal caused these problems. I noticed with like specific cheeses and a lot of milk, I noticed I would have indigestion problems or bloating or just like feel like crap through the day. And I've taken dairy out of my diet, not entirely cheese, but I have specific cheeses that are aged. And I noticed that I don't get the indigestion the way that I used to. Also, another thing with my body, and this is more specific to me and also like a group of other people in this world. I have asthma, and I noticed when I had meat and meat byproducts, it was aggravating my asthma. And since I've stopped having meat and meat byproducts, I don't have those irritations to my asthma anymore. So those problems and like those thoughts kind of lingered through my life into my 20s, and I would consider it, but then like never like really pull the trigger and be like, hey, I'm gonna eat more plant-based. They were just like things, and I just like was putting up with it and eating the way I was used to. But a big factor that led to me changing my diet into a more plant-based diet was when I became pregnant. When I was pregnant, I developed an aversion to meat, so I just could not eat meat at all. While I was pregnant, meat just didn't taste like food anymore. And I used to describe it to people as I had the sensation and taste as if I was biting into a dead carcass. And people would joke and be like, well, that's what it is. But the meaning, I feel like, was kind of lost when I would describe it, because like when you bite into a piece of chicken, you're not thinking, damn, I just like scooped this chicken up off the street and I just like bit into it. But that's like the sensation I was having. And it was disgusting. And it tasted disgusting. And that just turned me off to it. I couldn't eat it at all. And it was like not even just the taste of the meat. It was the vision of the meat. It was the smell of the meat. Like I couldn't look at my fiance eating a piece of meat very long. It turned my stomach. I couldn't walk past certain shops that had meat. Pregnancy definitely kickstarted this. I had to change my diet to sustain my nutrients because I was developing a child inside me. So I was introduced to alternatives to meat, a lot of like beans and chickpeas and lentils, and just finding protein in other ways. I wasn't getting enough protein just because like I wasn't used to the diet yet. So I had to supplement with protein powder and have like a lot of peanut butter. But that, I would say, was like the big turning point for me, was just I was no longer able to eat meat for that period of my life. And I had to find a different type of way to eat. And then the last big reason, I would say, happened after I had my son. And it was very weird. I craved a hot dog in the hospital, and then we got it and I ate it and it tasted like food again. But I had that feeling within me that like I just didn't like this anymore. Like it tasted fine again. I can eat it. I didn't have like gagging sensations, but I had no desire to have this anymore. I think like something happens to people when they have children. They start to look at like all their past mistakes and they want to do better. You're no longer the most important thing in your life. You have this little bundle of energy, I'll call it. You have this little bundle of energy that relies on you. So I would say generally people want to start making better decisions from that point forward. And I think that it was like the last major point for me is just I had my child and now I'm in my 30s. I'm noticing changes with my body after I had my baby and after just like my age. And I want to do better. I want to embrace my 30s. I want to embrace parenthood, and I just want to do better for myself, and I want to eat better. And part of that I'm finding for me is just, I just don't want to eat meat anymore. It doesn't excite me. I don't feel I need it. It doesn't really like make me feel great. I still feel like the bloating and the indigestion when I have meat. And I was opened up during my pregnancy to a different type of lifestyle and a different type of eating, and I enjoyed that more. I just have a desire to eat more plant-based meals, and that's pretty much like it for me. Plant-based meals also just make my body feel better, and for me, they just taste better. We did those meal kits like HelloFresh, and we did Every Plate, and we were getting the plant-based options, and I feel opened up to eating different types of foods. They just taste better, and I just enjoy them better. I feel excitement towards eating those, and I'm learning ways to prepare plants that I never knew how to prepare before, and it excites me, and it just tastes better. Yeah, that got a little rambly, but like I I just desire to eat the plant-based meals. I don't really desire to eat the meat. Speaking on a preparation standpoint of food, because like I do a lot of the cooking in our house and I just enjoy cooking. It's easier to cook vegetables than it is to cook meat, and it's more sanitary to cook vegetables than it is to cook meat. Meat, you have to be very careful about, like, is the meat cooked all the way because there's bacteria that can cause illnesses. And while there is with plants, like, you can't just eat vegetables that you've had in your fridge for 5 months. They might have turned. They're not contaminated in the same way. And of course, like, you need to wash them because like there could be parasites or whatever on your vegetables, but you don't have to like use the cutting board and then discard the cutting board into the sink and not touch the other stuff with the cutting board. Like you don't have like the fear of like handling the raw meat and then touching your face or like getting it in your mouth. There isn't the fear of like did you eat an undercooked piece of meat and like maybe you're going to get food poisoning or something. I also just like feel it's cleaner to do vegetables than meat. Meat is very slimy and juicy, and like you can get meat juice everywhere where like you don't really get vegetable juice everywhere. I guess unless if like you had vegetable juice and you tipped it over. But like if I'm cutting up zucchini, I'm not really worried that zucchini is gonna like splatter juice everywhere. That's kind of probably like a weird thing, but like that's what I think about. I feel like also sometimes the meat is just disgusting handling it. That might be a personal thing, but like we cooked turkey sausage, I think it was one night, and it was so gross. It was like in a condom and you had to like cut it open and then like the meat like flip and it was like ugh. And then like the way you had to break it up, I don't know, it was just so disgusting. Like I don't feel that kind of like disgust when I'm handling vegetables, but that could just be that like I have like a sense in my mind that like I'm just turned off to meat. So it could be that I'm like projecting that onto the actual meat I'm looking at. But that's just like another point for me. I want to teach my son that there's other options for food, and I don't want him to feel like this is the food that you eat. So he is allowed to eat meat. Like this isn't like a household where I'm like, no meat in this house. My fiance eats meat, but I want my son to know that there are different kinds of foods from different cultures and they all taste good. I want him to know that you don't need to just eat meat to sustain a lifestyle, that you can 100% have a plant-based lifestyle and live a healthy life. I didn't get that growing up. And I feel like if I did maybe earlier on, I could have made a more informed decision for what is good for me, because everybody's body is different and everybody needs different things. So I want him to have that opportunity growing up to discover what his likes are and what his preferences are and what he feels is working for his body. I noticed when I stopped consuming so much meat in my diet that I lost weight, and that's good. I think it's like once I started to correct the bloating and the indigestion, my body started to normalize. But I do think like if you just eat mainly vegetables and stuff like that, you're not going to have as many calories, so your body's going to start burning off calories. And that's helpful for me because I'm trying to correct my weight after pregnancy, because pregnancy makes you big. And those are the 4 main points in my life, whatever you want to call them. If I really sit down and think about it, like that is what I can categorize, help me come to and start maintaining this kind of lifestyle. I'm never going to truly be off meat 100%, I believe. I feel like there's always going to be a time that comes up that I might not have another option. But I feel like I'm working towards something that is really improving my life and improving like my mental state, improving like my physical state of like health. And I've been enjoying it. But with that, I do want to highlight, because I know that there are people who want to do this, but there are challenges. So I want to touch on those that I've experienced. So this might be like really specific to where I live in New Jersey. But I noticed when I started to move towards this lifestyle, there isn't many options for me to really maintain this, especially if I'm being social. There aren't many plant-based meals on restaurant menus. I found it is a lot easier in New York and Jersey City, but those are like major cities, so I feel like just the culture of those cities is established in a way that like people want to eat this way. But where I live, which is very conservative New Jersey area, very Italian, plant-based lifestyle just isn't the thing. So I think there's just like not much business for it for restaurants. However, in recent years, I've noticed a shift. So, like when we first moved here, like this wasn't an option at all. I was having a hard time. But I noticed in the store, the Impossible meat and the Impossible options popped up. And I noticed that the oat milk ice cream is now in the stores. So we're getting there. There's also restaurants popping up that seem to be vegan. One we found recently is called Cultivate, and we love it. It has all like meat substitute, like chicken, meat substitute, like burgers, and there's nachos, and it's really, really good. And we had it a couple times, and my fiance who eats meat, like, he really wants the burger. And he said that he didn't feel like he wasn't eating a burger that he could enjoy because it was plants instead of meat. So that's starting to open up, but like, I feel that's definitely a challenge for people where like, it's like, okay, I want to do this, but like, I don't really have the options to buy things in the store. And there isn't really an option to go out and socialize and get something other than like a Caesar salad. That definitely makes it harder, but I think society is starting to shift and we're getting more options, so I'm keeping my hopes up. Another challenge that people have, which is probably one of the most important ones, is just wanting to eat healthier in general costs more. I feel like you get more meat for your money versus plants. And also just like the storing it long term, I feel like it's challenging with plants where it's not as challenging with meat. Meat, you pretty much bag it and throw it in the freezer. But plants, like, you have to store in specific ways. And also, if you freeze plants, they don't really taste the same when you defrost them. So that's kind of a turn off. I tried tofu once. I don't like tofu. But my point I want to make with that is, like, the price of, like, the cube of tofu is more expensive than just, like, a bag of chicken I can get. And the last challenge that I noticed with switching to a plant-based diet is just there is a huge cultural peer pressure aspect towards eating meat. And I feel like it's a lot heavier on men than it is on women, but it's still there. So meat is just like so ingrained in our culture and it's weird. Like Thanksgiving, you need to eat a turkey, you know? Christmas, you need to eat a ham, I think it is. It's just like weird to me. And if you don't want to eat those, you're looked at as the weird one. I've already experienced like on Thanksgiving, like I want to eat a little bit of turkey to participate, but I don't want to mainly eat turkey. I have like a plant-based meal that is prepared that I go towards. And like I'm treated differently, you know? Like, oh, you're not eating the turkey. And I know in other families, like it's a huge thing. Like being the one to prepare the turkey is like the honor. Being the one to carve the turkey is like the honor. And if you don't participate in that ritual, like you're not participating in the holiday. It's so weird. And there's so much of that in different holidays and cultures that it just like makes people not want to do a plant-based diet that might be healthier for them just because like they don't want to be picked on by the people they care about, or they don't want to be the weird one, or they don't want to insult people. Another aspect I've witnessed in my life, I didn't personally experience it, but and it's where I'm saying, like, I feel like this is stronger on men, is that it's considered more manly to eat meat and it's considered more feminine to eat plants. And I've seen people who want to make better choices and eat, like, even eat leaner meats, like, be called, like, homosexual because they want to choose to eat that way. And, like, this is something that I feel like a lot of, like, entertainment media and like books and like even college classes go into the impact of toxic masculinity on a person's lifestyle. It makes it very hard for those people to want to make healthy decisions for themselves when they're being met with that kind of toxicity. I think it's very unfortunate, and it leads people to have lifestyles around food that they don't want to have. So Again, like, I didn't personally experience it. I think it's because I'm a woman. I have had pressures from family where they're like, you're gonna die if you don't eat meat, which is very weird. And yeah, I hope as we go into the future that things change in society and wanting to eat plant-based is more accepted. And I hope that people stop putting such toxic pressure on people who want to eat that way, and we start looking at the science of health and nutrition, and that maybe eating a huge piece of meat the size of your face isn't the healthiest decision for you. But until that time comes, I feel like people need to start thinking about, like, it's my life, it's my body, and I'm gonna do what makes me feel healthy and what is improving my life. That's what I did. And I hope my ramble of my reasons why I'm doing this helps someone. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. I mainly do videos on design and my transition I'm trying to do into product design, but I think that lifestyle videos and vlog videos are kind of fun, so I sprinkle them in. And if you found anything in this video helpful, consider giving it a like. That really helps. And if you want to say anything in the comments, please leave it below. I love interacting with people. If you're going through trying to decide if meat is right for you, if you want to pursue a plant-based diet, you're not alone and it's not so scary, and there's a support system out there. It's just a little hard to find, but you gotta just throw out the noise of all the negativity and just do what is right for you. And if eating plants makes you feel like you're alive and you're not going to die, then who is it to somebody else to tell you that is wrong? You know, you only get to live once and you got to take care of yourself. But thank you. I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one.